If someone calls prosecutors vile, virtueless, and without honor just minutes before a lethal injection, you'd assume they were bitter. But what if that same man insisted until his final breath that he had killed in self-defense? And what if a state parole board actually agreed with him just weeks before he was executed? Tonight's story isn't simple, it isn't clean, and depending on who you believe, Phillip Dean Hancock was either a cold-blooded killer who manipulated juries twice, or a man who kept finding himself in violent situations and survived them. Welcome to Death Row Diaries. Before we get into this, if you watch these stories and don't hit like, that's wild. These cases take serious time to research and break down, so do your part. Hit the button, subscribe, and let's get into it, because this one gets uncomfortable. Phillip Dean Hancock didn't grow up in a picture-perfect home. Born in Oklahoma City in 1964, he was the older of two brothers. His younger brother was diagnosed with cerebral palsy after complications at birth. From a young age, Hancock became protective. He fought kids who bullied his brother. He stepped in when things got rough. But inside his own house, things were already rough. Reports say his father was abusive, physically abusive. His mother reportedly fled at one point to escape the violence. So Hancock grows up learning two things: protect your own, and violence is normal. He went to church with his parents, Methodist, Sunday mornings, but afterward, he'd hang out in salvage yards smoking marijuana and cigarettes as a kid. Two different worlds forming at once. And then, at 18 years old, everything changed. May 26, 1982. A park in Oklahoma City, young people hanging out, drugs being sold. One of the men there was 27-year-old Charles Lester Warren, allegedly a dealer. According to court testimony, Warren and Hancock had tension over a missing ring. Words were exchanged, tempers flared. Witnesses said Warren slapped Hancock. Hancock later claimed Warren threatened to drag him out of his car and beat him badly. He described Warren as physically intimidating, bigger, stronger. And then, Hancock allegedly said something chilling. "I'm gonna blow his head off." That's what a witness testified. Now here's where it gets messy. Hancock grabbed a .22 caliber rifle from his friend, fired multiple times. Warren was hit 5 times and died. 2 bystanders were injured in the chaos. The next day, Hancock turned himself in. He was charged with first-degree murder. Now pause. 18 years old, multiple gunshots, a dead man, 2 injured civilians. You'd expect life in prison. But the jury accepted his self-defense argument. They downgraded it to first-degree manslaughter. 4 years. He served less than 3. Think about that. If that verdict had gone differently, does 2001 ever happen? That question haunts this entire case. And if you're already thinking this story is more complicated than it looked at first glance, hit like right now, because we're just getting started. 19 years later, April 27, 2001. Phillip Dean Hancock is 37 years old. He walks into a house in Oklahoma City belonging to 38-year-old Robert Lee Jett Jr. Inside the house, Jett, a 58-year-old friend named James Vincent Lynch III, and a woman nicknamed Smokey. Drugs were reportedly involved. Then, an argument over cigarettes. Yes, cigarettes. According to Hancock, Jett pulled out a gun during the argument. A fight broke out. Hancock claimed he disarmed Jett and shot in self-defense. That's his version. But the witness inside the house told a very different story. She said after Jett was shot and wounded, he ran. Hancock chased him into the backyard. Jett fell and allegedly said he was going to die. According to her testimony, Hancock replied coldly that yes, he was going to die, then finished him off. He also shot Lynch during the incident. 2 dead men. This time, it didn't look like a chaotic park scuffle. This looked controlled, intentional. And Hancock disappeared for a year. He wasn't arrested immediately for the murders. He evaded law enforcement. It wasn't until he was picked up on unrelated firearm and drug charges that forensic evidence tied him to the double homicide. June 2002, officially charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Now here's the thing. He claimed self-defense again. He said the victims were gang members. He said he feared for his life. He said he reacted to protect himself. But prosecutors pointed to inconsistencies, to the chase, to the alleged statement in the backyard, to the finishing shots. In September 2004, the jury didn't hesitate. Guilty on both counts, and they recommended death twice. The system that once gave him 4 years now gave him execution. That contrast alone is enough to keep you up at night. Then came the waiting. 19 years on Oklahoma's death row. Appeal after appeal denied. Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals rejected. U.S. Supreme Court rejected. He became one of dozens of inmates eligible for execution after exhausting appeals. Then he joined a lawsuit challenging Oklahoma's execution protocol, dismissed. He asked for new DNA testing in 2022, arguing it could prove self-defense, denied. But then something surprising happened. In November 2023, just weeks before his scheduled execution, the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-2 in favor of clemency. They recommended commuting his sentence to life without parole. That is not common. His legal team argued that this was self-defense, that inconsistencies weren't enough to justify death, that mercy was appropriate. The Assistant Attorney General pushed back hard, said the jury had already examined self-defense, said Hancock's own statements contradicted physical evidence, said chasing wounded men and finishing them wasn't protection. The victims' families were divided emotionally, but united in opposition to clemency. One brother said his sibling wasn't perfect, but didn't deserve to die like that. The board still recommended mercy. Now everything rested on one man, Governor Kevin Stitt. And if you're still watching right now, that means you care about these cases, so subscribe, because we break down stories the mainstream headlines flatten into one sentence. Don't ghost the channel. Governor Stitt had granted clemency once before, famously commuting Julius Jones' sentence hours before execution, but he had also rejected other recommendations, and this time he waited and waited. Critics later said the delay was agonizing. On November 30th, 2023, the day of execution, Governor Stitt rejected the clemency recommendation. 3 hours later, Phillip Dean Hancock was executed by lethal injection at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. He was 59 years old. Before the injection, he ordered a bucket of KFC fried chicken, dark meat, no sides, root beer. That was it. No elaborate feast, just fried chicken. Then he gave his final statement. He thanked his lawyers, he maintained self-defense, he expressed hope he would be exonerated after death, and then he turned toward prosecutors and called them vile, virtueless, and without honor. No apology, no admission of guilt, just defiance. And then it was over. He became the fourth and final execution in Oklahoma that year, and the last execution in the United States in 2023. 24 executions happened nationwide that year, a noticeable rise from the year before. Death penalty opponents criticized the timing. They criticized the governor's delay. They said the psychological torment of waiting was cruel. Supporters said justice had been delayed long enough. So what do we do with this? Was Phillip Dean Hancock a man shaped by early violence who genuinely believed he was defending himself every time? Or did he learn in 1982 that juries might believe him and try it again? That's the question that makes this case stick. If the first jury had convicted him of murder instead of manslaughter, do 2 more men live? Or was 2001 an entirely separate explosion waiting to happen? The parole board saw enough doubt to recommend life. The governor didn't. The jury didn't. The families didn't. And Hancock himself never backed down. Now, here's where I want you to think. If someone insists on self-defense for over 2 decades, through appeals, through failed motions, through the shadow of execution, is that denial or conviction? Drop your thoughts below. I read the comments, and the best debates always happen there.
And one more thing, if you made it this far and didn't subscribe, that's cold. We just walked through 40 years of legal history together. Hit the button. I'll see you in the next one.